Welcome to this channel. Hey y'all. All right, welcome. All right, welcome to Tish Talk. Um, I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being a part of this channel, for joining in this frequency. Um, Everything here is alleged and for entertainment purposes only. And the fair ad use is in or going to be in my description box. The copyright disclaimer under Section 107 and 108 of the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976 gives allowance is made for fair use for purposes and will be in the description box. Okay, fully outlined. So thank you all to the new subscribers, to the old, to the ones that are here that actually come with good intentions. Welcome, okay, to this frequency called Tish Talk. Today we're going to be discussing, I did an energetic read on Big Meech and Little Meech. All right, the past, present, and future. We're going to be dealing with that, okay? Tapping into those energies. So, I hope you all are doing fine. Let's get ready for this read, okay? Yeah, we'll just go ahead on and start. I hope you guys can hear me. Let me just make sure my sound, let's do a sound check real quick before we get to it. Y'all probably didn't even hear me.
Say everything all over again. Everything here is the Legend of Entertainment purposes only. Welcome to Tish Talk. I hope you heard the intro because I ain't about to do it all over again. All right, but welcome y'all to the day one, two, three, fours, and fives. Um, Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for coming to the channel. So we're going to be doing an energetic read on Big Meech and Little Meech. The questions that I began to ask as I started channeling, which we're going to be dealing with, is there any sign of a possible reconciliation and chance of 50 Cent working back with Lil Meech and or Big Meech? Was one of the things that questions that I asked for this channeling. Welcome, y'all. Welcome. Um, and I will have to say yes. There's a possibility, but let me explain, okay? So there is a possibility of 50 working back according to the tarot. Of course, energy always changes, is always shifting. There's a possibility of energy changing up. It depends on our choices in everyday life. But this is the energy that was read, okay? And everything here is alleged and for entertainment purposes only. The fair ad use will be in the description box, okay? So there is a possibility. The rune that was pulled was partnerships. It's called Yebo, and this is the rune that was pulled. This was a simultaneous read on both the father and the son, Big Meech and Little Meech. I'm sure y'all know about BMF, who that's who the series, I believe it was on Netflix when it was 50 Cent's series that was on Netflix, was airing, which it's over and done with now. But there was a falling out with 50 Cent and he just squashed the whole thing, okay, because of some stuff that Lil Meech was doing and getting himself into outside activities and some in this is all legend information versus only. Y'all can do your research about it. But then the plug was pulled on the entire series, the show, okay. But yes, there is still, according to this read, there is a chance of um, 50 Cent getting back with them and working with them, okay. There's a thought, okay? There's an intention there. I don't care what he might be saying that he will never, ever, but the Gebo was pulled, okay? And also the cards, the tarot cards did align towards that. Let me explain. It could be a possibility, but it would be a different project. It wouldn't be the same. I don't feel like it would be the same continuation of the old series. It would possibly be a different project or changes with the current project. So even if they did piggyback piggyback off of the old project and do a spinoff or something, it would just still not be the same. I'm just picking up something different. So maybe in a different capacity or maybe a spinoff, perhaps. These are just some things that are twirling in the air. I don't feel like anything is solidified as of yet. But there is a possibility of an intention, okay, of 50, um, possibly, like he's thinking about it, that he would fuck with either the father and or the son, in that type of movie type thing all over again, okay? Um, but then I also unfortunately see the possibility of Lil Meech messing things up again. All right. And I'm not saying that 50 doesn't have an ego and he didn't have a little bit of a part to play with the controlling thing and getting upset about, I guess he got upset about a little picture that Big Meech, Little Mitch, or whatever, that they took with, who was it, Rick Ross or something, which is his opponent. But anyway, I'm not saying that 50 is all, perfect or what have you. However, 50 would reconsider this whole ordeal. I do see him wanting to do a venture or a project with Big Meech more so than Little Meech, okay, as far as what the energy is reading for me. But he is possibly, probably reconsidering working with the both of them, despite the beef with everything that done transpired and everything that he didn't like about the Rick Ross pictures and whatever. Yeah, all that whole ordeal. Okay, I don't know all the details, but I do know that 50 has a little control thing going on with him too. Um, like I said, I don't know all the details, but there is an energy of the fact that 50 is, he would possibly, or he's thinking in that regard that there is a chance that he would do a project or something with Big Meech, okay, in the near future or in the future, okay? Um, However, now, as far as 50 working with Lil Meech again or reconsidering, it's more of a thought at this point. It's definitely not an action. So it's his mental. We're talking about mental. We're talking about energy. Nothing, I don't feel like there's no plans or nothing has materialized. I don't sense that at all. But it's more of a thought. Okay. So he is, that lets me know that 50 does have a heart because, and welcome, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Whoever's here. I'm sorry, I can't see the comments right now, but I will read y'all comments and give y'all some shout outs at the end because of how I have to prop my phone. I can't even see comments right now. But yeah, so, but I do thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sorry, I can't see your name right now, but welcome to you. Thank you for being here. Okay, now, I do think that Big Meech has come into some type of realization now that he is out, and he served his time and everything, he's out into the real world. He's coming to some type of realization, just seeing things. It's one thing to be locked up for all that time, but then when you get out, you begin to see things. And I feel like by him seeing how Lil Meech moves, his movement, um, he has grown into more of a better appreciation. Not that he was not appreciative, when he was locked up, but he appreciates 50 even more now because he can see things more clearly now. There's just a little bit more gratitude. I think that he sees everything in somewhat different perspective now that he's been out and living in the free world, as far as also that he knows and he is watching his son's movements. He's observing his lifestyle, which Lil Meech is. So Big Meech is observing Lil Meech's lifestyle as everything's here is a legend for entertainment purposes only, um, as someone who struggles with substance abuse. Okay. Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. So I feel like he's observing all of that. So it's causing him to have more of a realization, like he's coming to realize, like my son has an issue, he has an issue with, some things, some substances. I'm trying to say this as tactful as possible. So yeah, he's also in seeing the economic situation of the world today and how even money is worth less than it was. Our dollar has shrunk since 20 years ago or whenever he first got locked up. So I feel like he just appreciates, I don't know, it's just caused him to have more gratitude towards Fishy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that he sees everything in a different perspective as far as all of those things. Looking back, he's looked back, looking back in retrospect with the nostalgia, with the Six of Cups came up um, as far as his career path and his past. He has some type of realization of the impact of the lifestyle that he once did live. Um, there's some type of like just looking back in his past, I feel like he views little Meech also as a problem child. I think that he's looked back. Well, I did sense today that he looked back over the seeds that he had sown with the lifestyle and the career move that he made and the stuff that, he used to sell and seeing how it, it's hitting home now because these things are affecting his own son. It's one thing to sell it, and then it's another thing to see the impact of what you sell hit your own child. So, the whole realization is like all these things are just it's just really hitting home, okay? Put it like that. Yeah. So, yeah, so he does view Lil Meech as a problem child because he has some issues. We all know that. He does regret his absence in his son's life due to being locked up. And I just heard him saying, like, I wasn't there for him. I wasn't there for him. So he also looks at his son as a victim as well, which, of course, in a sense he was because he didn't have that father figure. So there's the guilt there, there's the regret there. Of course, that's all natural. So I felt all of that. Um, then there are a lot of harsh realities for both Big Meech and Little Meech, okay? Like the aftermath of life just lifing from a high status of BMF, the legacy to shame, from the high status down to a lost legacy, so to speak. They blew money fast. There's nothing cute about that. So with the money issues, with life being, and I believe that Lil Meech blew allegedly a whole lot of his dad's money. And I feel like a lot of it, the father didn't even know. Demetrius didn't even know until he got out. Everything is a legend and for entertainment purposes only. So with all of that reality, life is lifing, reality is setting in. Times are harder than what it even used to be, and you working with less than what you used to have. So with the status change, it's hard out here with the economic downturn, the economic crisis that, he got out at such a time as this when things are hard out here, and you can't do what you used to do. Them feds and them people watching your ass. All of that is just really, really hitting. It has hit home. It is hitting home. So that's a lot, y'all. That is a lot to have to learn a whole new lifestyle, a whole new means of income, going from being up here to, what it is now. It's just different. Life is lifing. So I began to see all of that with this energy check-in. I also heard Big Meech saying, I want to tell my story my way. I want to tell my story my way. Now, I'm going to tell you, this read is not all bad. I do see a possibility of a new show to come out in the future because you have to realize the partnership was pulled with the Room, and that is Gabo. Gabo was pulled. There are some good things that are going to be coming. Just hold on. I heard him saying, I want to tell my story my way. There's some things that he wants to retell, tell differently. There could possibly be a new show. He wants to tell his side of BMF. He wants to do some type of documentary, perhaps, maybe it is underway. I did sense that it's coming. Okay, maybe not now, but maybe a couple. I don't know when, but it's coming. Okay, futuristically, it's coming. He wants to leave his legacy and his story behind. I heard my legacy, my story. I'm going to tell it my way. Okay, he's saying that I want them to know. Okay, so I begin to see all of that. So I believe that somewhere down the future we will hear the differences or in the BMF story from Demetrius's the father's Big Meech's perspective. Okay, he wants to retell it energetically. I could pull that up. He wants to change some things. He wants to tell his truth. Okay, whatever that may be, he is going to be retold Demetrius' way. That is what he wants to do, and I feel like it's going to be done because he really, really wants to do that. Okay. The story will be retold. Maybe he wants to do, yeah. So I also see, listen now, there is also a possibility of a movie could come in the future. Now, if they can't work out the legality things with 50 Cent, because I believe that 50 Cent might own the rights to the whole BMF story, then maybe I do also see the possibility of Demetrius, the father, Big Meech, working with a team of people on a whole different movie and them like changing all the names and maybe Big Meech working as like a consultant or something and giving them insight of his story so they can add it in on this other story that will have excerpts of his life in it, but people won't know it. It'll be like a ghost type um, silent partner or silent consultant or something if they can't get the legalities worked out. Um, or it'll either happen that way or he'll be able to work things out with 50 and do a whole movie. Because let me tell you, I saw people going into the theater, sitting down. I even saw Rick Ross sitting down in the theater. Okay. He didn't have no shirt on or whatever. I saw the red theater chairs, and all I could hear was um, I think I'm Big Meech, Larry Hoover, whipping work. Hallelujah. One nation under God. Real niggas getting money from the fucking start. Okay. Yeah. And so I heard that, and it was just like in the theater, people was about to watch the big screen. The movie's about to come on. I could see the popcorn, everything. Yeah. So this is something that they heavily want to do. If maybe Demetrius can work that out with 50 and they could do some type of reconciliation, 50 could be the one over the movie, not on series stuff on Netflix and Prime and all of that stuff. This would be a real movie. So it'll either happen that way or the possibility. I mean, this is a strong desire. Either they working on it, they want it to happen, or it might just really happen. Okay. Or it would be that Demetrius, I'm seeing if he can't work things out with 50 to do a movie and tell it his way. Um, and this is so there's a possibility of the documentary I think is going to go through with Demetrius telling stuff his own way. Now I'm talking about a whole separate thing, which is a movie. Okay, that's another thing that could possibly happen. And if he can't work it out with 50 to do it that way, then he may work as a silent contributor to some of the script or whatever the what do you call it? The whole story or whatever to just a whole different story, somebody else's story and where in parts of his life he would be able to give them insight and tell them some of the things that he did that can add into somebody else's story. So it'd be different names, different everything. You won't even see his name on nothing as far as the title of the movie. You won't even know it's about him. But he would just be working as a consultant just because he went through things like that. And so being that he lived it, he could help give insight to write a movie like that. Why not? He lived it. So, like a consultant type thing. So I see those possibilities around him. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So maybe they will change all the names and Meech can work on a whole different other movies, such as work with a team, giving input of his life experiences to be added in a whole entirely different story, with a whole entirely different name that people won't even know is really, he has parts of that of his life included in there. Because something will hit the theater and he will have involvement. So either it can be 50, like I said, and I'm just reading my script, or he could work with someone entirely, a whole entirely different group of filmmakers. I kept seeing a theater, people sitting down, and then the song by Rick Ross was playing. We already said all that. All right. So a movie deal possibility or behind the scenes movie deal, collab or joint venture underway as a consultant. Let's move along. He regrets selling his story to that woman. I don't know that damn woman name, but that was a big mistake. He strongly regrets that. Yeah, he really, really regrets that. His life has been shook. Drastic change. We talked about that, how his life has transformed. It's just his life has been shook. Okay. Drastic change. Um, now, I don't know if he was a bully growing up. I think it was just a way of life. That's how he had to live. You kind of like when you out there in the game, you got to do what people in the game do. You have to be tough. So I don't think he was a natural bully, but or he had a bully personality naturally, but he had to develop that bullying skill or whatever. That's a part of his old lifestyle. So, however, these things can somehow become a part of you when you live that lifestyle. It's like this bullying type energy I feel on him. And I know that, growing up in Detroit, you kind of like have to be that way, especially with the lifestyle that he used to live. But now he's learning how to revamp his character, his personality. He has transformed. He's learning how to transform he's learning how to do things differently as far as his interpersonal dealings with people skills. It's a new world for him. Okay, I just heard it's a new world for him. He has learned that you can't just bogart your way into any and everything to get what you want. Yeah, that doesn't work all the time. So his personality has somewhat been modified to gain a more favorable outcome. He is learning how to master his emotions. Also, was pulled the King of Cups in the tarot deck was pulled. Um, so he's learning how to master his emotions, learn new skills. Okay, this is working to his advantage because even if people owe him something, or he feels like they owe him some things because Big Meech did help a lot of people. Okay. And even if they should pay him back, a lot of times people are not in a position to pay you back. Sometimes they don't care. Sometimes he helped a lot of people. He helped people get on with music and different things. Um, Essentially, it's still up to them to help him now that he's in a needing situation scenario, um, a type of need status, because he don't have what he used to have. But many times people do forget, they forget where they come from. They forget how you've helped them. A lot of times they set in their ways. They have their own lifestyle, luxurious lifestyle, and their own responsibilities, and they won't give back. Maybe some of them can, maybe some of them cannot, but you can't make people give anything, and you can't bully them to give anything. Okay. But anyway, he's learned how to master his emotions and dealing with all of that. Okay. With the King of Cups, mastering his emotions. Um, but in the long run, I see it benefiting him making these modifications. It will benefit him financially and socially to achieve material stability. He will achieve some material stability with the Ten of Pentacles was also pulled. And I'm giving you the sequential order of how the cards were pulled. And then he's going to be able to celebrate success with the Six of Wands that was also pulled. And finally, he will be able to find more peace and closure into new waters with the Six of Swords that was also pulled, which strongly does indicate a positive outcome for reconciliation and job recovery or money improvement after navigating the challenges that he's being faced with and moving from a struggle to stability and a happy resolution. So this was a very overall good read for him. Um, and for his son, y'all. I see some partnerships. Again, this was pulled, the room that was pulled, and the tarot cards do match. They're going to be partnerships and movie deals, even for Lil Meech and all his mischievous little ways. I do see good things coming down the pipeline for the both of them. I do see partnerships. I do see endorsements. I even see the possibility of, what did I see? A reality show for a Big Meech with Lil Meech being included in there, I believe. Like it's like a life after, um you know life after whatever, the lockup or whatever, something like that, like some type of life after BMF or something like that. I did see that too. Okay, futuristically, but this will be along down the line. So there's just some possibilities and just some things that are going to come down the pipeline now. Nothus was pulled, which is a not so good rune. But it's gonna all is well that ends well. So this is the one. It's not the Gebo. This is the Gebo. See, this one has a little slant to it. All right. So this means compulsion, necessity, pain. Um, it also means constraint, hardship, need, building character for long-term gain, constraint, hardship, need. So this is kind of like you got to go through in order to get through where God is taking you. It's just something that Lil Meech had to go. This is mainly toward for him as well. Actually, both of them have gone through um, something. Okay, the valley of the shadow of death, I guess you want to call it. But I feel like this Noctis is really, especially for Lil Meech, um, because and it's really pronounced Nauthiz, not Nauthis. But it's spelled like Nauthis. But it's basically like he had to be pressed. He had to go through something in order to get more discipline. So he's having to make some changes and modify a lot. Basically, if you don't learn, you will be taught, and life got a way of teaching you. And so that's basically why he is things were like kind of like on delay, on hold. I can give y'all more of that. Where is that wrote at? Here it is. It says, our lesson, see, he had to be taught a lesson, is the necessity of bearing strong enforcement. Sometimes we learn from losses, we learn from the things that we go through. So this is just basically him getting kicked off the show and everything because of all the devilment that he got himself into and get people in trouble and all. Y'all already know. So yeah, that's what that is about. It is a time to pay off old guilt. And even if it's easy, it is time to restore balance. So, the balance was needed. He had to change some things to become more disciplined, and sometimes we learn in harsh ways. We have to learn. And so that's pretty much about him. That's what that's about. All right. Let's see. What else? So, So I get the feeling also that Lil Meech, he just had the wrong perspective. He basically just wanted people to look at his lineage and he wanted to get like a pass for his shortcomings. But the thing is, he had to learn that you have to put in the work. Um, People are looking for your best on the set and off the set. Okay. So I just got the feeling that Lil Meech wanted people, like when he was working with 50 Cent, when he was working with the networks. He wanted to be viewed in the light of his father's legacy somehow rather than like sheer hard work. Okay. You have to show up for your job. You have to outperform your competitors. He did not really fully grasp the fact that 100% of him getting that job, that acting role, was yes, firstly, because he was Demetrius' son, Big Meech's son, but then he also got the job because, he had to put in the work as well. The expectation was still there. They still expected him to do really good work, and not just in acting, but everything that he does off the camera. You have to stay clean. You have to stay out of trouble. You can't be getting other people in trouble. He had to realize that everything, as far as what he was doing off the set, everything that you do as an actor, especially, and of course, as a Black actor, has a big impact. It has a lot to do with your endorsements, your contract, how people view you. Lil Meech had to learn the importance of his behavior, on and off the set. You know what I'm saying? And it's just basically like, I don't know. I guess the best way for me to explain it, how people get degrees and they want that degree to like outshine or that trophy, like, oh, I got this bachelor's degree or this master's degree, and they want that to outshine their hard work and they somehow want that to like cover up their faults. I don't know. That's the type of thing that I picked up with him. Like he wanted like I don't know, he just wanted a pass, I guess. I wanted everybody to look at the fact that I am, my father's son. But it's just a whole lot more that's more important than just that. And as we can see, he had to learn a harsh, consequential lesson that is why he lost that entire gig was because how you act even off the set is just as important as not only your acting, you got to give 100% with that. And the fact that, yeah, of course you got the job because you was Demetrius' son, but because you can act and not only act, but you got to know how to act as well. So, yeah, it was just a lesson learned. Okay. So, yeah, that was pretty much what I pulled for him. All right. So, he had to learn that you can't let things affect your job, outside shit, outside activities, outside substances, outside habits. He struggles with substance abuse and things of that nature. All right. So, as far as the overall interpretation of the tarot cards that were pulled, the tarot sequence, we have the Five of Wands, Page of Pentacles, the Six of Cups, the King of Cups, the Ten of Pentacles, the Six of Wands, and the Six of Swords. Okay, so the Five of Wands, okay, is learning new skills and the Page of Pentacles, finding emotional comfort and balance. Six of Cups, mastering emotions. King of Cups, achieving material stability. Ten of Pentacles, celebrating success. Six of Wands, and finally finding peace and closure in new waters. Six of Swords. If this greatly indicates a positive outcome for reconciliation and job recovery after navigating challenges, getting the money back up again after losing money fast, and BMF, blowing money fast, moving from struggle to stability and happy resolution. All right. So this sequence does strongly suggest that both Big and Little Meech will overcome the current conflicts and situations, learning new things, finding emotional peace, achieving significant stability and success. I'm pertaining to career, all right, and finally, also transitioning to a much better, more peaceful situation. The journey moves from chaos to resolution and long-term happiness. So I'm very happy for them, wishing them love and light. All right. Um, and so they are being gifted with the Gebo, the gift room, to read that more so in the entirety or give y'all some little context on that. That represents a partnership, a gift. When that rune is pulled, it's a sign that unity, union, or partnership is near, but you are requested not to throw yourself into this connection. A true partnership can only consist of two independent, healthy beings that preserve their own independence. Also, in this union, this advice is important at all levels. Okay, commercial things, partnerships of every type. Basically, they are going to be getting put on. I see people finding favor with them. They're getting favor. They're going to be doing, I feel like Big Meech is going to do a documentary. He's going to be able to tell, his side of the story and the way that he really wants to. A possible movie, if they can get things ironed out legally with 50. It might be them working with 50. Well, Big Meech working with 50. Hopefully, maybe Little Meech will have some input in that as well. Um, or, like I told you, he might just be a silent type consultant or agent or something like that, with a whole different set of filmmakers, and just give a little excerpts of his life so they can fit it into somebody else's movie with a whole different name, whole different characters. You won't even know that he had, you won't even know that. I mean, it won't say Demetrius. It'll just be he'll be working behind the scenes. That's good within itself to even be a consultant. That's still good. It's still a good career come up, especially from where he came from. All right. So, yeah, I wish them love and light, all of them. And then I also saw the possibility of some type of reality thing. Okay. Yeah. So it could be a number of different things, a spinoff or what have you, but I do see partnerships. I do see some success. I see that little setback with uh with Lil Meech, he's also gonna be gifted some gabo as well with the gifts. Okay, all right. As far as his room, the now these, okay. Again, that is constraint, hardship, need, building character for long-term gain. So it's like, walking into a setback, something sets you back so that you can reform yourself and get things right. Okay. But I see him also, still things favorable coming to him too. So they will be able to get their money back up. And I'm happy I did this read because every time I would think about them, I just assumed they were just, I don't know. I had this picture of them just in an apartment, just doing awful, just like begging people, just yeah, that was in my mental capacity. But in doing this read, I was just like, well, damn, they turning things around. Things are looking up for them or gonna look up for them. So this was pleasant for me, when I check the energy instead of just assuming on the energy, I feel good for them. I'm happy for them actually. So that's just what it is. Thank y'all for coming. It looks like I don't see many fans. They must don't have a lot of fans because nobody wanted to chime in on Big Meech, Little Meech, and I don't know what you're saying, but hello, Kukosi. I'll have to translate this because I don't know how to read Chinese. So I don't know what you're saying. And this thing here is not letting me translate this. I don't even know what these symbols mean, but hello and welcome. That's weird. All right. So